In a quiet village nestled near the foot of a great mountain, a boy named Jack lived a simple life. At 14 years old, Jack was small in stature and often overlooked by the villagers. He was a quiet soul, preferring solitude over the noisy games of the other children. His shyness made him the target of teasing, and the children mockingly called him Little Jack. Despite the taunts, Jack harbored a secret dream that no one knew. He wanted to climb the tallest mountain near the village. The mountain, shrouded in mist, was known for its treacherous paths and a peak that seemed to pierce the clouds. Even the strongest men in the village had attempted the climb and returned defeated. Jack's parents often discouraged him, saying, "You're too small, Jack. The mountain is dangerous. It's better to focus on safer things." But Jack's heart yearned for the adventure. He wasn't just chasing a challenge. He wanted to prove that strength wasn't about size or loud words, but about courage and determination. One fateful night, a fierce storm swept through the village. Lightning illuminated the sky and howling winds rattled windows. The storm caused a massive boulder to tumble down from the mountain and block the river that supplied the village with water. By morning, the villagers were in a state of panic. The blocked river meant no water for drinking, farming, or even survival. The village leader stood in the town square, addressing the worried crowd. "We must move the boulder," he said gravely, "but it's far too large and heavy for us to lift. Does anyone have a solution?" Jack, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "I might have an idea," he said softly. The villagers turned to look at him. Some laughed, while others shook their heads in disbelief. "What can a boy like you do, Jack?" they jeered. "You're just a child!" But Jack didn't let their words discourage him. He remembered a narrow path on the mountain that might offer a view of the boulder from above. If he could climb to the top, perhaps he could find a way to break the rock into smaller, movable pieces. Determined, Jack packed some bread, water, and sturdy boots and set out at dawn. The mountain path was steep and slippery from the storm. Loose rocks tumbled beneath his feet and cold winds stung his cheeks. Fear gnawed at him, but he kept climbing, driven by his dream and the hope of helping his village. Hours later, Jack reached a ridge that overlooked the boulder. From his vantage point, he noticed a crack running through the center of the massive rock. An idea sparked in his mind. If they wedged something strong into the crack, they could split the boulder into smaller pieces. Carefully, Jack made his way back down the mountain and shared his plan with the villagers. This time, they listened. Under Jack's guidance, the villagers gathered tools and worked together to break the boulder. It was a grueling effort, but Jack's strategy proved successful. As the final piece of the boulder was removed, water began to flow freely once again. The villagers cheered, overjoyed by the return of their river. They lifted Jack onto their shoulders, praising him. "We were wrong to doubt you, Jack," the village leader said. "You've shown us that bravery and cleverness matter more than size or strength." Jack's heart swelled with pride. For the first time, he felt truly seen and valued. A few days later, the village was still celebrating Jack's heroism when an elderly woman named Mrs. Clara approached him. She was one of the kindest people in the village, known for her warm smile and gentle demeanor. In her hands, she held a small, weathered box. "Jack," she said, her voice trembling, "during the storm, I lost something very dear to me, a pendant my late husband gave me. It's a golden heart with a red gemstone in the center. I believe it fell near the river. Will you help me find it?" Without hesitation, Jack agreed. Early the next morning, he made his way to the riverbank. Although the storm had passed, the ground was still muddy, and the river rushed with newfound vigor. Jack searched diligently, peering under rocks, brushing through bushes, and scanning the water's edge. Hours passed, and Jack's hands grew cold and dirty, but he refused to give up. He remembered the lesson he'd learned from climbing the mountain. Patience and perseverance were the keys to overcoming challenges. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden hues across the landscape, Jack noticed a faint glint of light between two rocks in the water. Rolling up his sleeves, he waded into the icy river and carefully retrieved the object. It was the pendant, a delicate golden heart with a red gemstone that sparkled in the fading sunlight. Jack smiled, holding the pendant tightly as he made his way back to the village. When he reached Mrs. Clara's house, she was sitting outside, her hands clasped tightly in worry. Mrs. Clara, Jack called out. I found it. Tears filled her eyes as she took the pendant from Jack's hands and held it to her heart. Thank you, Jack, she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. This pendant means everything to me. You are not just brave, but also kind. When the other villagers heard of Jack's latest deed, they gathered once again to celebrate him. The village leader declared, Jack, you have taught us that true strength lies not in one's size, but in their courage, determination, and kindness. You are an inspiration to us all. From that day on, Jack was no longer called Little Jack. He became known as Jack the Brave. He continued to help the villagers in any way he could, solving problems with his cleverness and spreading hope with his kind heart. As for Mrs. Clara, she wore her pendant every day, a constant reminder of the boy who had shown her and the entire village that even the smallest among us can achieve great things when guided by a big heart. And so Jack's story became a legend, inspiring children and adults alike to believe in themselves, dream big, and face challenges with unwavering courage.